Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and it's Wednesday night, and it's 7:30, and it's time for an interview with Chris June. Okay, and Chris is a Ward 6 candidate here in Chatham, Kent, and this is a good chance to get to know him. Now, I'm going to be getting to know him just as you guys are, because I've never met him, and most of the candidates I've met, or everybody else I've met previously. So this is new to me. So hey, welcome, and thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. What do you do right now?
Okay, well, before we do that, Ben, what I'd like to do is, first of all, say thanks for having me on. So much appreciated. It does give candidates a really good chance to, know their voting public. But I've also noticed that it's become a bit of a tradition to offer the host a gift. So I, like some other very good people, hello Marjorie, how are you, have brought a gift as a token of my appreciation.
I'm okay with gifts.
So I think that when you first started to promote this one for me, I offered a bumper car magnet.
Okay.
Don't know how well that went over. So I thought that I would still bring a nice gift. So what I've got is a nice pretty bag that's been donated by my daughter.
Okay.
Okay. And inside that, now, I just want to be clear as we get ready to do a big unveil here. I don't have the kind of marketing budget that Mr. Socks.
Mr. Socks,
Mr.
yep.
Socks had, so Darren Caniff. But I do have, a little bit of rework from my daughter. So you can get a recycled, absolute worn Chris June shirt. I realize it's going to be a little bit backwards, but on the back of it you've got a vote for Chris June for Ward 6 sticker on a shirt that has been personally worn, and I promise I will autograph it by the end of our little video show here.
All right.
So there you go, Ben.
So I can hang this on my wall. This has been worn by you.
Worn by me. Yeah.
Let me see this here. This is great. So it is a little bit bigger. Okay?
Yeah, a little bigger.
But as you can see, so you get these bumper magnets,
yeah,
right?
This is a magnet. Yeah,
okay.
It's a magnet.
So if people really support you, they can give you a call and you can have this. Okay. Are you going to give one of these out by the end of this?
You know what? I will have a few of these ready. Also a campaign lawn sign for sure. Yeah. Darren, thank you. I'm glad you love it. I couldn't quite outdo you, but I thought I would give it a good attempt.
He did. He's only given me socks.
Socks. Well, yeah.
This is a shirt. I can take cover in this, and so
and likely to be autographed by the time we're done.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Marjorie. Hey, everybody. So if you're just tuning in, hi, Karen. Feel free to hit that share button. It's right there. You're probably looking at it. Don't be scared to hit it. If you have questions, make sure you ask them. Don't be scared. I know everybody's kind of hesitant sometimes to ask questions. Are they good questions or bad questions? We want to have fun with this. The whole idea for these lives, again, like I said many times, is so that you can get to know the candidate, you can connect with the candidate and see where it goes from there. Socks and a shirt, you're all set. And yes, so I'm good. Okay, so again, let's get back to what do you do right now, and how can that help you run for council?
Yeah, so currently I work for a bank. I deal with commercial and corporate businesses, so I'm in the corporate finance of the world for one of the big 5 banks. I work for Chatham, Kent, so I don't have a specific office that I work out of. I cover everywhere from Wallsburg to Blenheim, Ridgetown, Thamesville, including both locations here in Chatham. So I work hand in hand with a lot of the small, medium-sized businesses that are located here.
Perfect. And how do you think that applies to council, a position on council, and anything in there that you've learned that you can apply there?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So, having the opportunity to work with businesses, small businesses, especially their financials, right? The economy changes frequently, businesses trying to adapt to changing economies, the marketplaces, right? And I think that just being able to have that business understanding and having worked with them so closely over the last, 16 plus years, really does give me an advantage, at least from having some insight, to what businesses need to be able to achieve, to be successful here in a marketplace like ours.
Right. Awesome. So, hey, Jen. Jen finally said hi. She always is watching, but never says hi, so good there. Nicole says hi, Ben. Hi, Chris. Been ages. Good luck. Scott Lancaster.
Hey, Scott. How are you?
Sue, Rita. Perfect. So, why did you want to run for council? Everybody generally has some sort of reason or cause or something they're passionate about. What is it for you? What made you say, hey man, I want to go compete and run for council here?
So great question. And I think, when you say about a cause is probably the underlying thing. Like all of us that are running, and there's some fantastic candidates, not only in Ward 6, some pretty awesome incumbents also, but we care about our community. Right? We care about the people in our community. Again, I'll come back to small business just for a second here. Those are our neighbors, right?
Right.
My two daughters grow up with a lot of those business owners' children. So it's important to me to be able to work with them and to give back.
Right.
I think anytime you get into politics, it's simply because you believe that you've got something tangible to do and give back, and you can help make some good choices and decisions for your community.
Absolutely. Awesome question. Hey guys, Tom, who's going to show up with underwear? Okay, I don't know, Tom, but there's a lot more people going to be coming in, so we'll see. Cheryl, hello. Let's get on to some other things here. Let's talk about main topic here, sports complex.
Yeah.
I like the sports complex. Everybody knows I like sports complex. Where do you stand? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I'll be very open and upfront. I think that we have to do it. Okay. I think that this is a necessity for our community and for a variety of reasons. First of all, we've got 2 aging facilities, right, that would potentially be, decommissioned. They've served their purpose.
Yep.
A new complex gives us something to be proud about. So
absolutely.
Regardless of whether we're talking about a, single pad, twin pad, a multi-use, surrounding field, whatever the size of that is, I think we need to make that investment now.
Right.
And I believe that if we wait another 4 years or we wait longer, it's just going to cost more money. We still have, from an economic perspective, right? We still have to worry about the 2 existing facilities, the ongoing cost of that overhead. They're inefficient, first of all. So we can recreate something here, take care of, operational costs, some of those redundancies, be more effective, more efficient, have something exciting that's going to draw people here. We've got
starting to like this guy.
Well, I mean, simply, we've got a lot of things that we can celebrate, right? We've got some fantastic history here, that spans all of Chatham-Kent. So if we can find a way to bring a different element that gets people re-energized about Chatham-Kent, we can draw on over 500,000 people, right, in the southwestern corridor. So why not Chatham? Why not give us the opportunity to do that? Why not explore what that can do for us?
Awesome. This is good stuff. Hi, Crystal. How are you?
Crystal, hi.
So let's go into, from there, let's just go into tourism.
Sure.
Okay, because you did mention, a couple things. We got a lot to draw on. Where would you go about that? I don't think we do enough, myself, to get people off the 401 into Chatham. I don't think we're promoting the, the areas we have, the history we have, the beaches we have enough. Where would you go with that?
Yeah. So I think you can tie that in certainly to the sports complex, but I agree with you. So much of our community, it's about understanding that unity, right? So whether you're talking about, Erio, the stuff that goes on in the summertime with Cherry Fest and Blenheim, I think Wellsburg, needs to be cross-supportive. There's things like Wambo, as an example, is coming up, I believe, this Saturday, right?
Right.
On the 11th. It's important for the entire community of Chatham-Kent, first of all, to rebrand itself as Chatham-Kent, to be able to promote folks coming off of the 401 and get them to drive through Chatham to Wellsburg.
Right.
Right. Creates an abundance of economic value, first of all, to the retail shops and stores, restaurants, right? I'll come back to those small and medium-sized businesses, right? They'll come, they'll visit, they'll stay, they'll eat, they'll shop. So I think the more that we put a package together, a plan together for our entire community, not just Chatham, and push that outside of this marketplace, we have a real opportunity to rebrand and also to speak more to those things like our history and get people to travel from shore to shore.
Awesome. Tom, do you support the railway trail? Okay. I've talked about this before with everybody else. Do you support the railway being a trail? The Great Ontario Marathon Trail.
The Great Ontario Marathon Trail. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So first of all, we own it currently.
Yep.
Right? I don't believe that you could acquire that property for cheaper than what we would have paid for it. I don't think, first of all, that whether we recoup the entire cost for what the municipality has spent currently, if we get 80% of that back, but we currently own the land that can be repurposed, you can do all sorts of things that contribute to quality of life. Right? So health benefits, gets people out, gets them active, gets them off of Facebook. And while we love to see you here on Facebook, right, we'd love to see you out walking and enjoying what Chatham-Kent has to offer. So yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you make those business decisions and you learn pretty quickly, well, we've got to move on. But how do you make the best of the opportunity that's there?
Awesome. Tom, so that was a good answer for you, buddy. Shelley, what is Chatham-Kent's greatest asset in your opinion?
Our history. Well, two things. History being one. So whether you're talking about, Buxton to Dresden to Thamesville, we've got history from the War of 1812. We've got the Underground Railroad. There are some significant trade routes along our Thames River.
Yep.
Those were important things. So I think that our history, first of all, is one thing. Then you've got, hi Ryan, you've got, a culture, right? We are, despite what it might look like sometimes on the surface, we do have multicultural existence here. So I think that that's part of that history. And we're in a prime location, right? We are nicely centered as a hub to some other centers, right? So what disappoints me, I would say this, speaking about it being an asset, is we've got an ability to draw people from Windsor, from London, from Sarnia, from Detroit even.
A large portion of the United States is actually located near us.
Right here to Chatham. So instead of, it comes back to your marketing and promotion, right? Instead of promoting us being in a location that we can easily get out to those places, I think we can easily promote getting into Chatham-Kent.
I like it. Hey, Ryan and Carol's got a question. Do you think your age is an imposition to the job given to you? How old are you?
My age. So
Nobody likes. No women like me asking them. I'm asking your age.
Good question. I am in my early 40s, so I don't know if that's too old or too young.
Right.
So I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage. I think that if we talk about the history of Chatham-Kent, I was old enough to remember amalgamation.
Yep.
But young enough to not have cared about politics.
Right.
But I've spent the last, again, nearly 20 years working in finances. So again, having worked with small business, medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, I understand some of those challenges that they would have faced, right? And the things that they were dealing with. Again, I'm also, though, of the age where we had some pretty significant industry here. My dad worked at Campbell Soup, as an example. So one of those, manufacturing facilities, production facilities that would have packed up and left. So I've seen varying degrees of both successes that Chatham-Kent has lived through, and some of those, sort of darker moments where we've lost a lot of business and industry here.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Hey guys, hit that share button, hit the like button if you hear good stuff, or hit the love button. I don't know, whatever you want.
Hit the love button.
So that good. And again, share it with your friends. And if you're watching the replay, don't be scared to comment and ask questions later. And Chris will hopefully, get back to you with some of his answers. Moving on, we do have population has been declining.
Sure.
Skilled labor is probably most of that declining population, leaving the other areas for different reasons. What can you do, or what are your ideas, if you have any, about how we can increase the population? And it does come back to places like having the sports complex, stuff like that. But you got anything that's specific?
I mean, clearly we're not growing organically, right? We're just not having enough kids here. So if you're already living here, right, the winters come and snuggle up, that'll help, right? Snuggle up to your partner, that'll help. how do you address population, right? So what makes Chatham attractive? What makes Chatham-Kent attractive, right? So, I think it's equal parts of you want to be able to grow your population demographic, but you also want to be attractive to, a breadth of individuals. So it's one thing to say, hey, we just want more people. I don't think just more people is the answer, right? So this isn't a volume thing. You've got to be able to go and find those skilled laborers, right? But you're not going to find skilled laborers if we can't bring investment dollars here that grow business and industry.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ontario as a whole has a skilled labor shortage.
Right.
Right. So in the 4 years that I spent working with the Chatham-Kent Chamber of Commerce, so I chaired the board for 2 years. So I know pretty intimately those challenges because I hear from employers, right?
Yep.
They would love to grow and expand their business, but they can't find the work. The other side of it is that people of my age, so in their early 40s, maybe later 30s, had typically gone away to school for professional education, right? So doctors, lawyers, those types of things, accountants, and not necessarily have the requisite skills to be a millwright, as an example. Now that's a high demand, well-paying type of job.
Yep.
Right? And we just don't have enough of them. There are businesses out there that we can, help better support that are currently here. We can help them grow and exploit new market opportunities.
Right.
They're going to organically grow their workforce. That's going to help us bring and attract, right, those kind of people to live here. They're going to have kids. They're going to have families. Yep. So that means school enrollment, right? That starts to have a whole different kind of impact on our economy. So you've got to take a look at, our economic assets and how can you nurture that? How can you grow those industries that are already here, help them hire more, and then help source the right kind of people and bring them here? Because we've got a lot of great things to offer in Chatham-Kent.
Awesome. Hey guys, don't be scared to ask a question. I know I see lots of you watching. I can see all the little bubbles at the top. So don't be scared to ask some questions. Next up is we're going to talk about voter turnout. Yeah. We do have a lack of voter turnout. Traditionally, not that good at all. What can we do to engage more? Like we're trying here, doing a bunch of things, being more accessible through social media, and you guys are going to be out more, probably campaigning. But any ideas what we can do here to get people maybe more enthusiastic and more excited about taking part in the process?
So I think that's a great question. Probably for the people in politics that I've talked to the most, one of their biggest frustrations, right? So we tend to think that it's an innate thing, that everybody votes. And the fact is not everybody votes, but they all have opinions, right? So one of those things, I think we have to start with an education process, right? We have to get voters better educated, right? In the sense of what topics, what issues resonate with you most. And if you can find those things that link up, right? So what are the things that I stand for, other candidates in Ward 6, other candidates throughout Chatham-Kent, you're going to find those trigger points, right? And then I think it's about being informed. So then the more that your candidates can share with you information to help make you more informed so that when you do come to vote, right, that you know what you're voting for and not what you're voting against. And I think that that's important. So it's going to be about educating the voting public. And then secondly to that, it's making it easy for them to do it, right? And I think we're working hard. The municipality is certainly working hard at making voting easier, right, through advanced polling, online polling, and accessible polling, right? So really effective October 1st, you can start to cast those ballots.
Right.
And that's important.
Awesome. Okay, let's see here. We got Sarah Weaver. Hi, Sarah. This is one I'd always plead the fifth on here, if we could do that in Canada. Which political party do you align yourself with provincially and federally? So before you answer, the best answer is to not answer this question because some people go one way or the other and it's municipal politics. But you're free to answer that any way you want. But you got my suggestion. I think everybody knows that was a good idea.
It's a terrible question, Sarah Weaver. Thank you for asking. I'm going to give you an answer because I feel obliged to do that, but it's going to be a pretty short answer. I'm somewhere between, a liberal conservative, and I know that's not a great answer, and that's like most Canadians playing the middle road. Mm-hmm. I think the markets have to take care of themselves, right, economically, for sure. But and then I think about, our market. I think about Chatham-Kent specifically. We have to, right, be great social stewards. Mm-hmm. We have to find ways to contribute, right, socially, for things like better mental health, as an example, right? We've got to find ways to be able to help give a hand up. So not a handout, right? Everybody wants to feel like that they've made a contribution and earned the things that they achieve. For a variety of reasons, not everybody gets equal and fair opportunity. Right. So that leads me to things like diversity and inclusion. And I think that those things are important. If we don't have diversity and inclusion, we're never going to grow our population. We're never going to have a diverse culture that we can all appreciate. So again, I'm somewhere, I really am somewhere in the middle between those two. But I think that we have to be able to do more, that if you can do more, you should.
Awesome, and that might be the best answer to that question. So all you other candidates, take note. That was a good one. Jeff Sill, hey, I'm building the front porch, going through some building inspector red tape. Can you grease some wheels for me?
Yeah.
That's a lot. I hear a lot of people either trying to expand their business. I do know a person around the corner here. They've taken down a property to try to expand their own property to make their business bigger. And they go through all these fees and red tape, and everything takes so long that what can you do to grease the wheels? Not for just poor Jeff here, but for everybody that wants to expand and grow and build.
Yeah, and so again, I think, Ben, so great question, Jeff, as it relates to, getting through the process. Yep. We have departments that do not make it very easy. And so the one thing that I would definitely work on changing, right, is the effectiveness of the policies, the how do I get to yes. So one thing that we definitely do not do well here, and again, so, I work with the Workforce Planning Board, right? So I co-chair that. Having worked with the Chamber of Commerce, having chaired that board, I hear from businesses that say, I've gone to municipal departments, and the answer is just no. It's not why it's no, and it's not how can it become a yes. There's no direction. So I believe that there is a lack of leadership that isn't pulling those internal departments together and finding solutions that say, well, it's no at the moment, here's why, and here's how it can be fixed, and here's who you'll talk to, and I will help make that connection for you. That's the one thing that we can do better and do differently.
Awesome. Good answers. Again, if you guys have more questions, comments, or even a non-question like Jeff kind of just had there, these are things that are helping engage, and your participation's always welcome, so even just to say hi. So let's go on to the other biggest issue that is never-ending. Never-ending is the how do we make Chatham-Kent one? A lot of people in the previous kind of interviews, the Facebook Live audience have said, should we rebrand Chatham-Kent as Kent, or change something like that, which is extremely difficult and probably costly. Yeah. But what can we do? And everybody says it. Everybody says, hey, we're going to make everybody feel like one, but it's not that simple. No. And it's always been said, but is there any direction you can take that you would go to do this?
So that's a tough one, right? For a variety of reasons, a lot of things that you've mentioned. I've had the opportunity in my career, right, within Chatham to work within Chatham-Kent. Right. So, I think first and foremost, it's about effective communication. And can I drop names here?
Do whatever you want.
Is it allowed?
It's totally allowed.
There are current counselors that I believe do an exceptionally good job at thinking big and very broad. Now, I think the responsibility, if you're elected in Wallaceburg, is to certainly put priority to the issues and concerns of Wallaceburg. But you have a counselor there, like Herman McGregor, that thinks big, thinks broadly, and takes all things into consideration. And you know, it's hard not to have respect for somebody like her in particular. So she makes the process, right, of working through bigger, broader issues easier.
Right.
You've got a former counselor who's seeking re-election in Art Sterling. So again, somebody that I've had an opportunity through, you know, different things that I've done within the community that thinks bigger, right? Thinks more broadly. And when you've got those kind of relationships around the table that don't think about just their little corner of the world, but certainly respect the uniqueness, right, that their ward is, but really do care about what happens, you know, 30 kilometers away.
Right.
You start to build that kind of consensus, right? And those are the kind of relationships that your civic leaders need to be able to have, right? And they need to be willing to work through, you know, the tougher questions, the tougher topics, but be very convicted for sure. But you've got to walk into those things with open minds.
Right. Awesome. You're batting 1,000 for answers, in my opinion. Okay, let's keep on moving on. Again, don't be scared to hit that like button, the love button, the share button. Tell your friends. Share with the person next beside you, no matter where you are. Okay, housing in Chatham, Kent. Okay, and it's not just Chatham. It's Blenheim. It's everywhere. There's a shortage. There's a clear shortage as well. There's a long waiting list for the social housing that we do provide, and rental units are near impossible to find. Okay, for anybody from the lower income to higher income brackets. So it's affecting everybody at this point. So where would you go? What kind of ideas would you have to kind of take care of some of this?
So, you know, as a realtor, and as has been pointed out to you, right? I mean, you can't do anything about inventory currently unless you're building brand new houses. So I think the question is, it's affordability, right? So we have large segments of Chatham, Kent, right, that, you know, are working in either a part-time type of job, right? They might be working multiple part-time jobs to be able to, right, financially pull things together.
Right.
And when you've got those kind of constraints, housing affordability becomes so much more of a challenge. So how do we get around the affordability when we don't have necessary access, right, to housing, because there's not big apartment buildings that are being built at low cost, right? So, you know, that's a tough one to be able to, you know, pin down within the next 2 or even 3 years, right? You've got to understand that we have a 15-year of unwinding, right, to be able to do economically. And as you've got, because of our cost of living, like when you think about how cheap it is to just live here, forget about housing for a second, but the accessibility to fresh produce, as an example, access to easy retail by comparison to a place like Toronto. That's why you're seeing a lot of those retired folks from those locations come here, right? Because of the low cost of living, but it's squeezing native Chatham, Kent folks out of the marketplace. So you've got to find a way to be able to build at a low cost. And I was watching your earlier segment, right? And perhaps, you know, for many people, it's not about building the $500,000 property, right? We've got to, you know, be able to do that in a way that provides safe, secure, reliable, affordable home access, and in a community that is more supportive,
right?
Because it is a real challenge.
Awesome. Okay, Sarah again, and Sarah's really helping us out with questions. Where's the other questions? How do you feel about the transportation options currently available in Chatham, Kent?
So clearly the answer is that I don't think we really have transportation options in Chatham, Kent. I know that there was the attempt to do, you know, ride sharing like Uber, and Uber had turned us down for a recent opportunity to bring it here. I know that, you know, the municipality has certainly looked at it, and they've worked at changing bylaws to be able to bring something like that in. But again, this is one of those critical things that will certainly impact economics and population growth. If it's not easy to get from, I live in Wellsburg, but the job I want that I'm, looking for might be, in Blenheim,
right.
as an example, or Ridgetown. How am I going to get there if I don't own a car? And what we're seeing, I have a 22-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't own a car, and she only recently got her driver's license.
Right.
Now, when I was 16, that would have been unheard of, right? Because everybody in my age group, or even older, got their license as soon as they possibly could, and had a little junker of a vehicle. There's an entire generation that don't care to have their driver's license, but then they run into living in communities like ours,
right,
where we are so vast, right? And it's not easy to get across. I mean, we talk about 20 minutes in Chatham being across town.
Yeah.
But again, you think about the work opportunities. If I live in Chatham and I want to go work at Continental in Tilbury, we have a transportation issue. It won't make me very qualified to show up for shift work, to be there on time and be able to get home safely, right, at the end of a working shift. So we have a real issue. We've got to find some creative ways to do that. I'm not sure what the real answer is. I think ride sharing is going to be one of those solutions. And we've got to get companies, that can really understand Chatham-Kent's uniqueness, right? And it's landmass geography.
Right. I think that's one of the toughest things.
Which is a tough thing, right? We are 104,000 roughly, right? People over a swath of land, and somebody in Toronto that's seen the economics of it, they find it hard to equate the two. Right. Right. So it doesn't make sense. The other issue, right, that we run into is the social and health issue, right? We've got a bit of an older population here. We've got to get them to doctors, right? Right. We've got to get them to healthcare practitioners. We've got to get them to get their groceries. And that starts to put some added pressure on their children, right? And just maintaining that work-life balance. And that's something personally that I'm dealing with currently. Yeah, and while in some areas I know of Chatham, I don't know of the other areas of Chatham-Kent, but there is an area of Chatham where it's kind of like a food desert, where it's hard to, if you're a single mother of 3 kids or a single father of 3 kids and you don't have a car, and you got to go to a grocery store way the heck over here, how often, you all of a sudden you're ordering pizza because it's delivered. And that's $30 to $40. That could have went to a lot more groceries. More groceries and healthier food choices. Yeah. Right? So it comes back to, being able to have access. So transportation, right, is one of those things to me that it perhaps gets overlooked from a health perspective. Well, you could say, well, why don't you just walk there? That'll be healthy. At least that's some exercise. Yeah, well, true, but you're not, carting around, to your point, 3 children, right, as a single parent potentially. With 4 or 5 bags of grocery. In December. Right, in December. Unfortunately we take unhealthy choices and shortcuts, but that unfortunately becomes out of necessity, not because we choose to make those types of choices. Right now, I don't think it's within the municipality's mandate per se to build grocery stores, but transportation, finding it effective ways to be able to do that. Right. We have to look at it. It has to be a consideration, I think, for your leadership going forward. Awesome. We got one from Thomas. Maybe I missed the answer. Hey, Tom. But how can the municipality work more closely with the non-for-profits and tap into their services and expertise to help lower the tax burden? Ooh, that's a tough kind of combo to throw together there. Tap into the non-profit services to lower the tax burden. I don't know what you go about answering that question. I can answer maybe the first part, Tom, a little bit. And I think this comes down to leadership having a willingness to collaborate, right? And I think that leaders, our civic leaders, our municipal leaders, need to approach things like not-for-profit with a more open mind, right? And understand the role and the impact that they have in our communities. If we didn't have not-for-profit that didn't exist, right, in Chatham-Kent, and they impact so many people, right, and this isn't just about the poor or working poor. We can talk about things like mental health. We can talk about things like grieving, parents or children, right? So those other types of services, right? Helping kids to feel, like they belong, like their backpack program, as an example. right? You have to have a collaborative relationship.
Right.
And you have to be willing to sit down and listen. I don't have all the answers, Tom, but I know some pretty smart people that do, that work in not-for-profit groups. You have a fantastic candidate, right, that is soon to be retiring, right, that has a vast amount of experience leading and championing those causes. And I think someone that will definitely bring added value if elected to municipal council, right? But it's a collaborative approach. You can't have a strong economy without a good social support system, and not-for-profits fill a huge gap, right, in that system.
Yeah, and I don't know how you'd actually get to a point where you'd use the non-for-profits to lower the tax burden, but that's a thinker. Sarah, again, another question. With the possibility of not being elected, what would you do to work on ideas or issues that are important to you? Well, Sarah, I always tell people to go in with the idea that they will be elected and thinking positive. So why don't we turn that question around, if you don't mind me doing so, Sarah, to saying what ideas or issues are important to you?
Yeah. So I think for a community to be strong and successful, you have to start with investing in your people, right? So you've got to be able to build successful infrastructure and support systems that allow people to engage, first of all. We can't allow people to get isolated. It creates divisions, economically, which is never good for a community. That leads to other costly impacts, such as on healthcare, as an example. Right? So we've got to find a way to continue to build more inclusivity. So should I not be one of the 6 people that you get to vote for, right, for Ward 6, should I not be one of those folks? I believe deeply in diversity and inclusion. I believe deeply in the power that different experiences bring. So I would just continue doing some of the work that I've already done. So I would, happily re-engage with, the Workforce Planning Board, right? With the Chamber of Commerce. I would happily continue to stay involved with the Chatham-Kent Leaders Cabinet. Right. So these are all groups not municipally tied to administration or elected municipal leaders that do some pretty fundamental work in trying to bridge the gap in understanding. I would just simply go back to doing those things because it's part of community activism and involvement.
Yeah. Awesome. Shelley has a good one. Are you running in Ward 5 or 6? You mentioned you live in Wallsburg, which is true.
Oh, no. So sorry. I was speaking hypothetically if I did live in Wallsburg, talking about transportation. So I live in Chatham, and I am running for Ward 6 in Chatham.
Awesome. And Melissa Ann. Hi, Chris. I've been watching. Melissa's running in Ward 1, and she'll be on next week, actually.
Nice. So I look forward to seeing you, Melissa.
Awesome. And hey, if you guys got questions, throw them out there. I see you guys all up there, the bubbles and everything. So don't be scared to hit the like button, hit the share button, and ask any questions that you want. What do you see as Chatham-Kent's biggest challenge over the next 4 years? The biggest challenge that will affect us?
The biggest challenge, well, if the simplest way I can say this, and regardless, you've got an opportunity, Chatham-Kent, to make the single largest voting decision this municipality since amalgamation has ever had, right? So the challenge is going to be this. You're going to have a lot of new faces around the table.
Right.
I think that if there isn't going to be a willingness to work together as a whole Chatham-Kent, that nothing's going to change, right? And here's an opportunity to vote for candidates that are able to think broadly, that bring an amount of experience in acting broadly, that have some experience in building consensus. So the challenge is going to be is that you're going to have new people representing you, that certainly being one, and you need to find a way to be able to do it in a symbiotic way, right? And understanding that the decisions that get made in other wards have impact, significant impact on the other parts of Chatham County. So I think it's time for us to start broadening the way that we think about things. And again, I would say that there are certainly counselors, existing counselors. You've got a couple former counselors rerunning. Hi, Marjorie. I think I can answer that question, but I would speak about Marjorie as an example that, thinks big, thinks broadly, right, beyond just what Chatham, right, has to offer. So we've got to work together. That's going to be the challenge. It's having the leadership direction and vision that's going to pull us together to move us forward.
Awesome. And hey, Marjorie, tell us about your community involvement and any other volunteer work you have been active with.
Yeah, so good question, because I really believe that, you have to be a part of your community if you want to try to lead some of the community, right?
Right.
So again, I have worked with the Chatham-Kent Chamber of Commerce. I have chaired that board for 2 consecutive years. As part of the Chamber of Commerce, one of the real important things that we tried to do, so I would say that there's 2 things in there, but we started a diversity council, right? So that's probably a bit of a resonant theme here, because we wanted to find different ways of bringing different people into our community, not just from an ethnic background, right? But we've got some pretty amazing women entrepreneurs, and we need to support them, right? They got some fantastic ideas, and so part of that, was working with the diversity group. Also, though, we had started a government affairs group within the chamber to build better relationships, to get rid of some of that clump, that administration can sometimes have, right? So again, we'll talk about the internal processes within the municipality that haven't necessarily let businesses grow and flourish as they've needed to. So part of those goals were to break down some of those things and get those dialogues right occurring. I currently co-chair the Workforce Planning Board, right? So I've got a pretty good knowledge, background, insight in spending the last 2.5 years with the Workforce Planning Board and understanding the workforce and the population and what employers are saying directly and what the needs of the community are to help drive things like the economics and find meaningful, impactful work. And what kind of businesses want to locate here. And then I would say that quietly in the background, I've been involved with the United Way because I believe in what they do and all of the things that they touch. I have really been a champion more so of my wife, who's pretty heavily involved in the United Way, right. And has been for the last number of years. But, I've sat on the campaign committee, the distribution, committee. I've sat on the United Way Leaders Cabinet. So I've got a good understanding also of how not-for-profits, again, have the impact on our communities, right? How important and how critical they are to our entire health and wellness, right? And the strength of our community. So I believe that between those 4 things, I'm pretty involved. I spend an awful lot of time, but outside of that, I really enjoy watching my daughter play recreational soccer at 8 years old.
My daughter's 8 years old as well, and I got an 11-year-old boy, and he is loving soccer. And part of the sports complex I think we need to include is a indoor soccer field, especially when we get this the World Cup coming to Canada, North America, in the next 8 years, I believe. Which my boy will be 18, 19, hopefully make that team. I know he's practicing hard to do it, but soccer's been such a growing sport.
It's an explosive sport. So I would have to admit that growing up, I played a lot of sports. Right in high school, outside of school, recreationally, played on a lot of sports teams. Right. Personally, didn't really enjoy soccer.
Me neither.
However, as the world continues to grow and expand, it is the most popular sport in the world, right? And it gets kids engaged and active. We can come back to the sports complex and just the way that it helps build communities, right? Sport is a universal language, right? So it bridges culture gaps, right? You don't need to speak a specific language to kick a ball, to throw a baseball, to catch a ball, to dunk a basketball, right? So it can do so many things about bringing people together. So whether it's an indoor soccer field, whether it's 4 or 5 surrounding fields in a much bigger complex, again, the opportunity to make that investment is now. And the other thing financially is, despite some misconceptions, the last number of years, council has done a very good job, I believe, at reducing municipal debt.
Okay.
Right. So from an economic perspective, we can afford to make that investment. Now, we can't afford to foot the entire bill. Right. So I'm not suggesting that Chatham Kent goes about this alone. We are certainly going to need some other layers of funding for sure. But just building material alone on a very simple economical basis isn't going to be any cheaper, right, in 5 years. So let's not wait. We can do that. We can make that investment now. We can afford to make that investment back into our people, back into our community, be very proud, be very excited, get very energized about the potential, right, about moving forward and what that can bring to Chatham Kent.
Awesome. Great answers today. Back to the leadership, okay?
Yep.
A lot of enthusiasm, leadership, and just the energy comes from sometimes change. And some people always say, out with the old, in with the new, and suddenly something's different psychologically with the community.
Yep.
Now, with all the new faces that is bound to happen, okay, because some people are leaving, you're going to have new faces for sure. With that, do you think there will be a change in the perception that things might be just suddenly better and people would have more of a positive look at the community? Because if you read a lot of what people say on different sites and in comments, it's a lot of negative.
Yeah.
And it's probably over 70% negative to the 30%, and that's given a low number for the negative.
Yeah.
But do you think just a simple new faces, new blood in the game will give the community a little bit of a psychological edge?
Ben, I think it's a great question, and I believe so, right? When I think about change, I think about two things. It's not the change that people fear, it's the fear of being changed, right?
Right.
So when you force change on people, that's where the anxiety level comes up.
Yep.
Okay? So again, coming back to this municipal election, you're going to have no less than, I believe it's 7 faces that weren't there last year, or last term.
Right.
At least 7, right? And these are people that will be voted, so they've been involved, right? So voters, right? You've got to take the time to, pay attention, to understand what issues really stand out and resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're making that choice, then I think that because you have voted for a particular individual, right, that you're a little bit more invested. And because I think that now more so than ever, the voters of Chatham Kent are really going to be voting for something different, right? For a change that it is going to lift them up psychologically, right? It's going to, because they're engaged in a different way,
right?
They've involved themselves in a different way, and if they have certainly invested themselves in understanding, what does that person stand for, there's a bit more of a tighter connection. So that when we do talk about the many great things that are happening here, and there are some very good things that are happening here, it's going to perceive slightly differently. Now, I don't believe you'll ever get away from the negative comments on social media. Yeah, you're always going to have them, right? And, we're not always great at not jumping in willingly into the rabbit hole, right? Because I've been guilty of that myself. But there are some very, very good people. We've had some great leaders. We've got potentially, some returning previous, counselors that have been very good stewards of our community.
Absolutely.
Right? So you've got some change coming. Whether you're just throwing darts, you're going to have new people. Whether you've done it strategically, whether you've paid attention. But one thing that you can't also forget is that we've got some people that are currently elected, that are currently rerunning, that have done a great job for your ward in particular, whether that's Blenheim, Tilbury, Ridgetown, Chatham, Walsburg, Dresden. Did I get them all? Thamesville. Close. Right? You've got some great incumbents. And I think you need a great mix of, I've got experience, right? Yep. I understand the process, but I'm willing to be open and listen, right? Because even I can be convinced that what I brought to the table wasn't the right thing.
Right. Awesome. So we're going to wrap this up shortly. So if you have a question you want to sneak in here, make sure to get it in because you'll be coming back again, hopefully before the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to come back and give a bit of an update. You know, if there's an open invitation, and maybe I'll have some different swag, something a little bit. You know, I'll have a donation, one or two, to create something a little bit more fancy for my good friend Ben.
Okay, so Melissa, I think the community is ready for change, new faces, new leaders, new energy. I agree, Chris. The time is now. Perfect stuff. So there is a lot of energy. We are getting the word out now. Melissa actually and I were on the Mayor's Youth Council back in the day.
Okay.
And I do know that they're putting together, somebody else is putting together something between something and 39 years old. The funny thing is I'm 39 now, and when they did the Mayor's Youth Council, I was 24, and that was the cutoff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be cut off again.
Yeah.
So I can't even be part of the other thing.
No.
So,
however, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
But you know, as an experienced Chatham Kent citizen, you can have some influence on the people that could sit on there.
Absolutely.
Right? So we'll look to your leadership.
Well, we want as many people to sit on there as possible and get engaged and participate. And I always feel like, well, look at Melissa here; she's running. We're talking 15 years ago, and she's here back running and possibly in a position to serve the community, which is going to be great. Larry Valenga, he's going to be on tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Larry, hello.
And Amy Finn's going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Darcy
Maville.
How you doing? Okay, so as we wrap it up, what can you ask these people or tell these people? Why should they vote for you? Is there something that, you know, just knocks it out of the park for them? What do you got?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Give them the spiel.
Yeah, I don't know if it knocks anything out of the park. But I've got, you know, a history of business experience, right? Again, just from my professional career and background. So I can understand the finances, you know, easily enough. I've been involved in the community, and I've been involved in the community because I care about our community, like all the other candidates. You know, and I've done it in a variety of different ways. So if anything, whether it's because I have, you know, been a manager in a, you know, big bank, I've been able to build consensus. I, you know, understand, you know, how to engage people in meaningful discussion and dialogue. And so, you know, if you really want someone who's going to sit down and listen to you, right, pay attention to what you're looking for, take your issues and your concerns, you know, to the leaders in the community that you say, hey, I want you to represent me.
Right.
I've done that in the past. I've been fortunate enough to be asked to serve as chair of, you know, various boards and committees. So I believe that, you know, there's a segment of the community that believes that I've got that leadership capability, that I've done it in the past, I've provided it before, and this just for me is carrying on really as business as usual. You know, just in a different capacity, right? And a little bit, maybe perhaps a little bit more influentially, right, with some other decision makers, you know, sitting beside me.
Awesome. And here's a funny one. West Summerfield. My neighbor has a sign in the front yard. I just listed a house last week, and they wanted to make sure that they could keep your sign. This before I even knew you.
Yes.
They wanted to make sure they can keep that sign there with my for sale sign up there. So that was really funny. So you got definitely some support. You got people here been following and liking it. So that's great. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. We thank everybody for tuning in, watching, engaging, and asking questions, even as simple as saying hi or hitting the like button, because it lets us know you're there. And this is a good way to get to know you. Like, this is the first time I got to meet you, get to know you, and it was a good experience for me. And you seem to be a pretty good dude, man. So thanks for coming on.
I appreciate, you know, first of all, for you taking the time, giving the candidates an opportunity to get their message out. Right, it's a huge service to the community. You need to be thanked for that. I'm appreciative of it, and I think to all of you, the viewers that spent the time, you know, here with us this evening, right? Thanks to you, and for giving us an audience to do that.
Yeah.
So thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.